doing. This is Brian with Fishing Hype Guide Service, and I'm here with your KentuckyLake.com fishing tip of the week. And it revolves around the panfish season coming up, bluegills and red ear. I've got a little technique here, actually a setup, that I think will help you catch some more fish and help you spend a little less time retying and being hung up. Obviously out there guiding, the last thing we want to do is having people hung up and retying and them not fishing and catching fish. So I've incorporated a bass fishing technique called the drop shot into my bluegill fishing. We've all done the hook, bobber, and sinker deal. We've done it ever since we've been growing up, and I still use it when I'm guiding. There's other times you use just a split shot with a hook, you know, the hook behind it, or maybe even a jig behind it, and just crawl it along the bottom through some of the bluegill beds, red ear beds, and catch fish that way. The problem I've found with that is that's the one I get hung up with a lot, and so I try to tend to stay away from that. But a lot of times when you're using the bobber, you're doing a lot of adjusting. You might fish one bed's in 2 foot of water, next bed might be in 4 foot of water, and this technique here with the drop shot, you've just got a split shot on the bottom and your hook on top, and that sinker will always be on the bottom. There's no adjusting anything. It's the simplest system I have found by far. And what it entails is your favorite hook. I generally don't use the cricket hook. I use the next size up, just Aberdeen, just straight shank Aberdeen hook. And the technique to this is making sure you tie the hook right. What you want is that hook to be sticking straight out from the line once you're done. And if you tie it wrong, it'll be to the side or down or whatever. So you want to start with the hook out like this. Take your line and run it through the top of the hook. Give yourself plenty of length. I mean, foot and a half of a line left over. Run it back up through the bottom of the hook. So now what you've got is a loop and a long tag end. All you're doing here is doing an overhand knot, and then in that loop that you've got, slide the hook through that. Wet this all down and pull it tight. Now what you're going to do is find your tag end, and this is the critical part. Take that tag end and run it back through the top of the hook again, just like how you started, and pull it down. And now, when that line is going up to the rod and you got your line going down to the sinker, you've got a hook that's standing straight out like that. And with your plenty of extra tag here, now you can put your sinker on that and have, basically, what is that, 10-inch long, 12-inch long tag line. You can make it shorter and put your sinker up here. You can tie it with a longer tag if you think the fish are higher. But I right there is about perfect. That sinker is going to be dragging on the bottom, and if you go over, and I just use a split shot, nothing fancy, just a regular old split shot. This one's a number 1. It looks big, but I tend to like it. I can underhand pitch rather than having to overhand, so I'm not getting caught up in the trees, and the customers aren't getting caught up in the trees. There's enough weight there that I can just take that and just give it an underhand pitch out there. So the size of the weight really isn't a big deal. I just prefer that just because that's what I can do with it. But there's the basic setup. And as you crawl that along the bottom, if it comes up against a log or something, this is still going to be above, it's going to be on the bottom, hits that log, only your sinker gets pulled on. Now if you lose something, you lose your sinker. If it does get caught in a rock or something, it pulls off, slides off, you just put another sinker on, don't have to retie anything. So right there, this next bluegill season coming up, if you guys are here in Kentucky, Berkeley, anywhere, it doesn't matter where you're at, any bluegill bed across the country, this trick will work for you. A lot less retying and a lot more fish catching and a lot more fun. So that's your tip of the week for KentuckyLake.com, and this is Brian with Fishing Hype Guide Service.